So it's getting to the end of the gardening season, so I figure I'd give an update of kind of where we're at between the spring and summer gardens. Pretty much the spring garden has been done for a while, and as you see everything in front of me, the spring garden gets taken over by pumpkins by the end. One of the things that's I always look for when I look at watch the videos is seeing what varieties people are growing and the ones that work for them and taste well. So I can kind of focus on that of my experience with the ones that I did this year. I didn't pull any of the carrots. I pulled some here and there. You can keep them in all the way until the fall when it gets cold, where it'll taste a little bit better. So you can probably see that for the most part they all grew just fine. Mokum, purple snacks, sugar snacks. We do the test, and I would say everybody is liking the Mokum better than the purple snacks and the sugar snacks. So I think going forward, it's been another year where everyone has liked Mokum. I'll probably just be going ahead with Mokum going forward. I really can't comment too much on broccoli, the cauliflower, and cabbage. Those didn't really work too well, so it's more about difficulty growing than anything with the specific variety. It was kind of a global issue among a number of plants, so it just wasn't a good area or good conditions to get them to grow well. So I won't say too much about those. This was the lettuce bed. The lettuce bed did very well. The red leaves, I highly recommend Vulcan and the new red MTO. We did a Burpee bib. That didn't really work well for us. And then Cherokee Romaine. Fantastic lettuce. So highly recommend those varieties. We did a wide variety of different onions in this bed from either sets or seeds. It's the second year that I tried it in the same area. All of them pretty much didn't grow too well. So again, global issue, most likely the location versus the varieties I used. They taste like onions, but I can't really comment beyond which one's easier to grow and bigger bulbs and all that. I think next year or coming up in the fall, I'm going to overwinter them in the greenhouse and see how that goes. Inside here was the potatoes. Potatoes, run-of-the-mill ones that you get from your big box store. So they're fun to grow. They taste just like potatoes. No particular favorites. They grow well. No biggie with that. In this bed we did peas, the sugar and peas. That is where a lot of people really like those. So that was a big favorite among the people eating those. So highly recommend sugar and peas. And then the trellis over there was for the cucumbers that need to be isolated since they pollinate themselves. So it's the cucumbers that give no seeds in them. Diva, the variety was Diva from Johnny Seeds. Difficult to kind of get germinating. They kind of grew definitely smaller. You can tell the way the genetics were. They're not suited for large scale or production, or even really any medium production. And as you'll see in the back too, I had to start regrowing all the cucumbers. I've had a terrible time with cucumber beetles. They've destroyed all of my cucumbers this year. And the divas were still getting seeds in them, so obviously the distance between this trellis and that trellis over there wasn't enough, and the bees were pollinating all these sorts of ones, so can't recommend those ones. Black-seeded Simpson. We've had issues with black-seeded Simpsons not growing as more of a head. They more grow as the stems see. So they more grow up. So I never had those issues when I grew in a previous zone. But definitely an issue for them this year. And I think I'll probably stay away from black seed, even though we really like the taste of it. It was difficult to grow this year, so I think we'll try a different leaf lettuce that's more tolerant to the summer conditions. And then, like I said, you can see all the lovely pumpkins going on. So this was the first one coming out. These are pretty big. They're probably going to be 30 pounders. If you want to grow pumpkins, they are straightforward. They grow like hell, as you can see here. But you have to grow them early. So pumpkins start out green, and sometimes they can take forever to turn orange. So previous years we've started in August, and we were never able to get green or orange pumpkins. We always got green pumpkins. I think last year I did July and we didn't get orange pumpkins. This year we started in June, and you can start seeing we're starting to get orange pumpkins. So you need that heat and length to really get those pumpkins to mature to where you need them to go. This is a jack-o'-lantern seed from Johnny Seeds. So I've never grown these ones before, but the difficulty that I've had with my cucumbers, the bugs are still, you can still see the squash bugs, you can still see cucumber beetles all over the place. I don't see any vine borers, but you can see I haven't lost any pumpkin plants. I don't see any downy mildew. You can definitely see that in the back with the squash. So from a plant perspective, growing quite well. Each of them pretty much are going to yield at least one pumpkin. So we have 17 pumpkin plants back here. We're about at 12, 13 right now. So we should be at least 1 for 1, which is plenty fine for what we're doing. And it's good to have it just take over, and then by the end of the year you just clear everything out. So that is the spring garden update. Spring garden is now just a pumpkin patch at the moment. And we'll go back there to see how the summer one did. Okay. Alright, so the back, I haven't done any sort of trellis system to the raspberries, blueberries, or blackberries. They're all pretty much going. Some loss of some blueberry plants, but pretty much we're just kind of letting them go. Maybe not watering as much as we should, but they're still producing, they're still growing. Nothing too big there. We did take out the grape plants. It was just too difficult with the spaces that we were going with, so we decided just to take them out and make flower beds to attract the pollinators. Alright, so panoramic view, that's kind of where we're at with this. Hopefully the sun isn't blinding. Okay, so for this first bed from the spring side, we had Brussels sprouts, we had kale, Swiss chard. You can start from the beginning and it will go all the way to the fall, no issues there. And we had some cabbage. Probably never going to do Brussels sprouts again. Knew it going in. Those things take forever to grow. I didn't put any sort of cloth over the top of them, and bugs just destroyed it. So it just became food for everybody, and I eventually just pulled them. So can't really recommend the variety. There was nothing to the variety. It was just Brussels sprouts in themselves take forever to grow, and they're just more susceptible to disease and bugs. The kale was quite good, very much good reviews from a lot of people. That's Darkifor, if I'm saying that correctly. You can get it from Johnny's, I think I got. So grew very well, very leafy, very easy to grow. No issues there. This is your basic Swiss chard. Had a little difficulty growing it to get going. Some of it you can see it's bolting. It works if you like Swiss chard. Easy enough to just pick up just a regular packet at the big box store. Cabbage, not so good, so we didn't get any cabbage and we pulled all of those. So that was just because it ran into the summer season and it wasn't forming any heads and we pulled them. This dying patch right here was the purple beans. So these are velour, just like the pants, and that fabric, and it legitimately feels just like that fabric. So just from a texture point of view, what you're expecting from like a typical green bean, quite different in terms of taste. It's not much better than your regular green bean, so I will not grow these again, just simply because the texture is so weird. It's very fuzzy. Grew very well, very prolific, no issues there. The purple turns to green, but there's nothing really specific about these in terms of taste or anything else that would make me want to grow this again. So velour beans, purple beans, probably not going to do it again. And then in here we also had radishes, beets, and everything. They eventually just were pulled. Nothing specific about them because they eventually ran into the summer season again, and the peppers needed to go in here. So the peppers I do through a Florida weave system. I just put the posts here and I just Florida weave them. They will kind of topple over a little bit. You can see they go like this, so they are falling over a bit. So it's, if you Florida weave it, they kind of talk to each other. As one leans one way, it provides support for these. So I did a number of different varieties of peppers, all quite good, I would say. So these are Sweet Sunset. These are just the yellow peppers, very prolific. These produce significant amount of of yellow peppers. We had the first batch underneath kind of come through, and now we have the flower. You don't see the flowers anymore, maybe a little bit here and there, but the next bumper crop is going to be coming out. They don't turn, they will turn a little color, but for the most part they've been staying yellow. But again, very prolific, very good tasting. We'll definitely be growing these next year. These are Thunderbolts. So these are the stuffing peppers, the Italian peppers. Growing quite well. They also get quite big. Just having difficulty making them turn red, and I don't see any really right now. Maybe a little red one right here, but it's also rotting out. So these ones are also quite good. It's just they're just taking forever to turn on me. Quite good producers. And again, they're called Thunderbolts. Quite big. Very good for stuffing, grilling. So these have at least, you're probably at least going to get 15 to 20 per plant, and there's probably 18 in here. Some more black seeded. These are also quite, these are kind of the snack peppers. So these are hammocks from Harris Seeds. I already did the first pull of these things. You see like this plant, see a number of them on there going very well. So I highly recommend the hammock. They're just taking a little longer to get into the orange. And then here are just more of the ones that we already saw before, the sunsets. Squash. Squash has kind of been all over the place. This is Hasta La Pasta from Burpee. You're probably going to get 4 or 5 of these. From what I hear, it tastes all right. Just not as prolific, a little more susceptible to the bugs. They don't grow as big. They're not really uniform. They tend to be all over the place, so it's kind of difficult to know when to pick them because they're all over the place. Green Tiger. This has been getting very good reviews from everybody. So highly recommend. Very prolific, not as susceptible to the typical mildew diseases. So it is now coming onto it, and that's simply because of the next row over there has them all. But these things grow so quick, so big. I literally was just in here 2 days ago, and it was probably 25, a quarter of this size. So these things grow into massive bowling pins within a few days. So I try picking them early as I can, but if you miss them by a couple of days, they'll keep growing. I did try some eggplant. It is going well, but as you can see from the plants themselves just were difficult to grow. For whatever reason, the bugs really like eggplants in the beginning of the season. They really destroy those, so it took a hit in the beginning, and it took them a while to get back going. So I probably won't do eggplant again because of how susceptible they are to the bugs. Acorn squash I thought did very well, and then right at the end in the last couple of weeks it just got destroyed by disease. So if I were to do this again, I'd probably do this one again. I would probably do it a little later in the season. This is Autumn Delight from I believe Johnny's. Autumn Delight. So it's quite good with how they produce maybe 3, 4, 5 nice bearing fruit. But this one was a plant about 5 days ago, but it certainly got destroyed by the cucumber beetles or squash, whatever it may be. This is Butterbush from Burpees. I'm not quite sure why, but I probably will not be growing this one again. This is the fruit. They're supposed to be much bigger, and I can't seem to get one of suitable size. Maybe this one, but other than that, they stay these tiny ones. They're taking forever, so I've yet to harvest any one of these because of how long they're taking. So Burpee bush probably won't be that. Golden Goose yellow squash. You can see them inside there. Big prolific producer in the beginning, and then just kind of stopped. I don't know if that was soil conditions. I don't know if that's how the plant is, but worked really well, and then just like I said, just stopped growing as a plant, stopped growing or stopped producing fruit. So I'll probably do a different one next year. I probably will not do the Golden Goose ones from Burpees, and they seem to be a lot more susceptible to the mildew. So these ones are going to be done in the next week or so. So I'll probably be pulling this row and getting some of the spring crops back in there. This was the crazy bean sort of trellis. I don't like bush beans, and growing My wife doesn't really like the vine beans, but the variety that she likes, Blue Lake, comes in the vine ones. So it's the Kentucky Wonder mixed with the Blue Lake, so it's a Kentucky Lake. The theory behind the trellis works well. It's just kind of so heavy, it just pushed down the PVC. But there's about 300 plants in here. We've probably picked 20-30 pounds of beans, and they're still going. And they did as expected. They grew all on the outside, and all the beans hang on the inside, and I was just picking them all. It's just, the trellis is not that big, and these things will continue to grow forever, and the forever wasn't that much. So it worked well in terms of theory with this weird triangle that I had in the middle. So you can see the PVC. It didn't break. That's not breaking. That is just the way it is. Just the weight of it is pushing it down. So it worked well. Beans are actually quite good. We'll definitely want to grow this variety again, but I don't know how I will do it. But these are Kentucky Blues. Very good, very easy to grow. Highly susceptible to the beetles and bugs and all that stuff, but quite aggressive grower. Alright, so take 3. Last time I tried, the battery ran out. Didn't see that, so I had to go back in, charge it back it up. And then I did it again, and then when we re-looked at the videos, there was lovely dirt all over the screen that I didn't see. So back at it again to try finishing off the garden update. So again, corn is great if you understand what you're getting into with corn. It's easy, it's straightforward, but don't have the expectation where you're gonna have bountiful amounts. I probably have 70 stalks of corn in here. There's maybe 20 to 30 at best ears of corn, and it's a one-shot go. If you look here, there's nothing else on here. There's one little guy that's most likely not going to be anything here. It's just, there's not much to it. So it's a one-shot. Everything pollinates at once. You harvest everything all at once, and then you're done. It's not like a tomato or pepper that you can get continuous harvest. I can't remember if I had this in the previous video. So this was the bean trellis. So I hate bush beans just because harvesting them is a pain in the butt, and vine beans are good, but they grow until they can't grow anymore. So and they give continuous harvest instead of like the bush beans. They tend to go all at once, a little bit of a bumper crop, but not much beyond that. So it's heavy. It works. I mean, but you can see that this PVC, it's not broken. It's just in that shape. Unfortunately, since it's on a different day, we picked a lot, but you can still kind of see the premise is there. The vegetation's all on the outside. Everything hangs on the inside, and obviously we missed these in the picking window, so they're gone. It's pretty much done. It ran its course. Unfortunately, it just wasn't that tall. This is only about 6 feet up, and it just kind of strangled itself. We've had a lot of hot weather, no sort of warm rain, so it's pretty much just died on itself. So these are, we like Bush Lake, which are the bush variety, and we like Kentucky Wonder. This is Kentucky Blue. Put them together. I can't remember where I get them from, but it's, to me, it's the best of both worlds in terms of growing and still getting that Bush Lake flavor. It's just, you gotta have a setup that supports this sort of growth, and this was just a prototype, thinking how we would do this, and we'll have to think of something next year. In this nice long bed are all your green peppers. So this is intensive, so this is 1 per square foot. I purposely do hybrids that have a better package for disease resistance to support the sort of dense growing without any spreading of diseases. We used to do California Wonder, which are great, but we had all sorts of issues with disease. These ones are Vanguard and Ninja. Vanguard is from Harris, and Ninja is from Johnny's. We did Ninja last year, and like I said, we picked, I don't have much to show. Ninjas work, they produce, but I will say they're fairly small. They're really not kind of the bigger guys. This is, you kind of see my finger, it's really not that big. It's plentiful. If you're just going to use them for cooking and cutting up, that's pretty much what you're going to have. Nothing too big. The Vanguards have very much surprised us, and I think we will be switching over to Vanguards. These are absolute beauties. The only thing that I'm having, and it's mostly a soil thing, is the rot like this. But big peppers compared to the Ninjas, still just as plentiful. It's not like you get bigger so you'll get less of them, so I'm still getting it as much as I get out of the Ninjas. Plus they're larger, they have beautiful skins. I just don't have any, so this would probably be a smaller of them, but and this is the 3-lobe one. Usually they're the 4-lobe one. Both taste great. You'll be happy with either of them. I just prefer with the Vanguards there. So it still has the season to wrap up. Vanguard might just stop producing. Ninja might still going, and that might sway. But we'll see how it goes. As it stands right now, I think we'll be going with Vanguard. This is, the next rows are the tomatoes. And like any sort of tomatoes in the late season, they're just mini trees at the moment. So we did a handful of heirlooms, beefsteak, just trying to see what the big hype is about with these. I would say they're just as expected in terms of how they're growing. There's a good enough, they're not too big, not too small, but they are producing, just not bountiful as, say, you would have a hybrid that has bred for those sorts of characteristics. But they are going. I think the most disappointing one would be the mortgage lifter. They're quite large. This is probably half the size of what it is going to be, but there's really not much fruit on this, and I thought mortgage lifter was supposed to produce a lot more. Paul Robeson, very unique taste. Never had a tomato taste like that. So it's one of those tomatoes where you're going to have that taste specifically for it. So I would still recommend it. These, as you can see, need to be picked. So this is going to be your cherry. So these are from Burpee. This is Cherry Baby. These taste quite good. Much better than what we had last year's from Johnny's. I forgot the name of these. So people are really liking these particular ones. Very bountiful, plentiful, tons going on. Disease not so much. You can see some of the blight coming about, but working really well. Highly recommend. No issues with it specifically. More of the Cubanelle peppers producing quite nicely over here. Nice, large, still not turning color yet, but I was just squeezing as much as I can. Whatever I had left over, not in the other beds. All right, let's check out the other sides of these. From the beefsteaks, you have Brandywines. Brandywine suiteth. Some more Brandywines over here. In terms of growth, they're all still kind of get there. I'd say the suiteth is huge tomatoes like the mortgage lifter. I mean, these things are, I mean, there's probably, there used to be 3 or 4 of these all together, so you were looking at close to a pound for each of these. Quite big. You got the potato leaf, you see some disease on it. All are producing, except for probably the mortgage lifter, at a suitable amount. Nothing overwhelming, but you get many different types. Brandywine, anything with Brandywine, you're getting a taste that's similar to what you would see in the grocery store. Cherokee Purple on this side, I would say this is producing quite well, and you're going to see Cherokee Carbon on the other side. So another row of the cherry, and then you have the grapes on the other side. The grapes are Mighty Sweet, also from Burpees, working very well, very plentiful, no issues there. These are the Cherokee Carbon. These ones were the first to produce, and I would say they're probably producing the most out of the ones out there. Another row of Vanguard and Ninjas. You see the Ninjas, I don't know if it's the soil. I've been watering it. There must be some sort of wilt going on because it's not water related. They're just kind of struggling right now. They are next to the cucumbers, which have those terrible cucumber beetles that have been spreading, killed all the cucumbers. Let's see if we find any big ones in here. I don't really see anything that I can kind of show off. It's a fairly large one. Yeah, so you can just see the difference. It's nice and bushy, it's filled in. If you get to the Ninjas specifically in this bed, I don't know if it's soil related, just kind of hit and miss in terms of the growth. So still decent size. This one looks pretty good. Pretty nice one. You can see once you go indeterminate with these things, very plentiful, but you gotta have a trellis to really support these sorts of things. This is round 2 of the cucumbers we did First round was Bristol and Sweet Success, I think, from Burpees. The cucumber beetles just took everything down in the beginning. They're still there. They're annoying. I'm trying to keep up with them. You can see that a leaf like this where it has wilt. You see the squash bugs and everything. So these are just these little bugs. And there's some cucumber beetles. These are the cucumber beetles, these little striped beetles. They are just disastrous. So there's a bacteria in the gut. When they chew on this, they transmit bacterial wilt, and it just, no matter what you do, it just gives a gunk inside the plant where it just cannot transport water anymore, and it just essentially kills itself. So trying round 2, but you can see I'm still struggling with it. They tend to always be around the dead leaves, but of the 2, definitely not the Burpee Sweet Success. Unfortunately, I have nothing to show you, but the Bristols, they produce like crazy madness. Nice 6 to 8 inches, straight as can be, very tasty. So if we can continue cucumbers without this pest pressure, we would definitely be using Bristol from Johnny's. Highly recommend in terms of growing and eating. One thing probably we would not recommend is this is Big Boss Man. So this is a variety of poblano. This is from Burpees. I don't know if it's the heat, the location, but it's not a very filled pepper plant. It's growing quite tall, but even the ones I'm growing, we're more than 3 months in. I tasted one last week. There wasn't any sort of hotness associated with it. So could be location, it could be the soil, and it could be a variety that just doesn't grow in this. So this would be an absolute no for me. Not and say like it wasn't worth it or it did not taste good. It just didn't work for me, and there's plenty more to choose from. So Big Boss Man, it will not happen next year. So that would be all of the vegetables going on. With the fruits, we're really not going to say too much. I've really stressed out my fruits as much as I can just to get them to grow the roots downward, and you can see we have some loss. We'll see if they come back. I'll trim them up. But you see the raspberries and blackberries, they're going just fine. We did have grapes here. We did remove those. It just was too difficult logistically to have them all tied up, and it was just becoming more of a nuisance. So we pulled the grapes and just put in flowers that are past when they should have been put in, but they are slowly getting the same over here. We have zinnias and everything. So strawberries, same thing, probably not as big as they should be, but we really stress them out. It's still producing even into August, strawberries, so they are all season different varieties that contribute. So I really can't say too much which is the good tasting one or the better tasting one of the 3, just because it really hasn't produced that much. I've just focused more on the growth, getting the roots in there, and then next year we'll be taking them in. Nothing much in the greenhouse. The greenhouse doesn't really have anything besides maybe some onions drawing out, but it's so hot in these things in the summer, it's not worth it to grow it. But we will try to overwinter onions this year, since we had an absolute disaster of a year. And then in the back, there used to be leaves here. Leaves have now gone into the compost pile. So this has been all of the grass clippings, all of the garden waste that will soon become soil. So I'm trying to make all of my soil. And if I go deep into this, you can see this layer turns into nice black gold. So still definitely has some time to go, but that's essentially where all the green stuff goes to decompose. And it's still going. It's about 110 degrees. So this was, I flip it every 2 weeks when we cut the grass to give layered, like a lasagna of brown, green, brown, green. This will, when I do that, be all the way above the barrier, and then it will decrease with nature. All right, so that's the August update, and we'll see you in a month.